More questions than answers once again for Todd Burley as he sees his Chelsea side lose at home by 2-0 as we welcome in former Chelsea defender Frank Leboeuf. We'll hear from Frank in a moment. But Craig, overall, is it fair to say this game kind of went the way we thought it was going to go?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the strongest City side. It was a very young Chelsea side again. Wasn't the strongest of City sides, but for the most part, they controlled it. He had a few hairy moments, but as I say, Kovacic was excellent in midfield. De Bruyne looked sharper again. Obviously, Haaland got himself a goal. But for the most part, they controlled the play. And I think for Chelsea, some of the old problems from last year are still there. You know, and the other issue that Maresca has is you've got Cole Palmer, who was the standout player last year. Now, he's got Lavia fit again after a horrendous season with injury, after signing from Southampton. So he wanted him in, he wanted Caicedo in, and he wanted Enzo Fernandez in, which means your primary playmaker, assist maker, goal scorer is now shovelled out to the wide position and is in the periphery of the game. And then you have Nico Jackson up front, who, this is a willing runner. He'll work hard, he'll give you 100%, but he doesn't make good decisions. And I don't think he's a natural finisher. So when you have that, and then you have your main playmaker on the right-hand side, out of position, that's asking a lot of the rest. And that, again, we just talked about Real Madrid and Ancelotti. And Enzo Maresca's got to figure out, how do I get our best player from last year in our best positions? And that's decision-making that he's going to have to make. I mean, he's got, what has he got, 450 players to pick from?
43.
So he's got a bundle of choices he's going to make, but he's got the same old problems that were there last year. And I think in the end, Chelsea got what they deserved today. And I think City were just, even with a weakened side, were just too strong. So it was a really good match day one for them, away from home. Tough start, good 3 points.
Frank, your thoughts overall on the game?
Well, hard to make a statement after the first day, but I would say that Chelsea was dominated by a good Manchester City, not a perfect Manchester City, a young one, as Craig mentioned. That was quite encouraging to see Chelsea trying to press high and to try to force City to make a mistake, and at some point it happened on the goal that Nico Jackson has been disallowed. You know, it's what happened. But I'm with Craig. I think the first name that you have to put on the sheet would be Cole Palmer in the middle of the ballpark for me, because he's the main player, the guy who can create, who can give an assist and can score goals. Being on the right side doesn't help out anything and anybody in the team. So that's the only thing. And after, again, so many question marks about the technical mistake that he can make in the last third, in the last shot. From Nkunku, from Jackson, of course, but also from Fernandez. I found Fernandez maybe the poorest today in that game, where he's the skipper. He has to show the example. I didn't feel sorry that he was sharp, that he was ready to go for a fight. But I overall found something encourageous. They were too academic. They were too spontaneous. Not enough spontaneous, sorry. They played too much horizontal, not enough vertical. But I felt that there was something that Maresca is trying to do. It's too early to say, and we can see Madrid is not ready, City is not ready. We saw Liverpool, Arsenal as well. Nobody's ready right now. So they're still trying stuff. I can feel there is something getting better at Chelsea, but at the end of the day, if it's not to score goals because you don't have a striker, that's still a big problem.
The good news is, it's match day one, and Enzo Maresca, it's a 5 to 10 year project.
That's what he said afterwards, wasn't it? Which, considering the life of Chelsea managers.
Has he watched this movie at all in the last few years from his sofa as Todd Burley skips off from the posh seats into his box and down the stairs? That's all well and good. But this is Chelsea. This is just not going to happen. The other thing that I found disappointing, and has been since he's been at the club after much hype, is Christopher Nkunku.
Right.
Now, I know he had a lot of problems last year, but even when he didn't have those problems and he was playing, it wasn't sparkling. I thought he was poor again today, got the hook. So there's a few of these signings that were built up were going to be... Don't forget last year when he was out, he was Superman. He was coming back,
yes,
fix all the problems. Right? That was Nkunku's coming back, all's going to be well in the world. Well, that clearly wasn't the case. So there are... Again, it's early, but there's just so much to think about. And one of the things is when you've got so many players, as Chelsea have, it just convolutes the problems when you look around and go, I can shuffle that pack there and shuffle that pack and shuffle that. But I think, again, the big... Well, striker is obviously an issue, I think, and Frank, I think, agrees. But you're now going to have to figure out the middle of the park.
That's where a lot of the money's been spent, though, isn't it?
A lot of the money.
You look at it, and it's what...
Well, Liverpool wanted Caicedo, Liverpool wanted Lavia, and they both went big, Chelsea, to get those two players. Now, Lavia was out for almost all last season, and Caicedo, I think he's a good player, but he's making poorer decisions at Chelsea than he did at Brighton.
Yeah.
At Brighton, he made good decisions when he was alongside McAllister. At Chelsea, Frankie makes a lot of bad decisions.
Yeah, I agree. And what I find weird is they decided to buy some players that have all the same talents and skills, but all the same weaknesses. Caicedo, Lavia, Fernandes, same type of player, where you have to have something different. If you see Manchester City with Rodri, De Bruyne, maybe Foden when he played in the middle of the park, or some others, they are different types. To match all the point that you want to go for, and also to find the chemistry. It's impossible to find the chemistry between players who play the same. They're going to be double points and they're not going to help you out. And that's the problem. When I played for Chelsea, I had Zola, I had Craig Burley, I had Di Matteo, and I had Dennis Wise. Completely different players. They matched together because they were all together one player. And it was fantastic to see them playing. They agreed to play in a certain way together to make sure they were getting better. It's impossible when you have the same music. If you have the same instrument in a music, in an orchestra, you're going to play only with violin, and the sound will be awful. If you have piano, violin, guitar, it's much better. And that's what we don't find at Chelsea in the middle of the park. They have a problem because they have same players playing the same way and not being slow, not being too able to take on players. That's not enough for a club like Chelsea.
Well, they could pass the ball and I could run. But they...
which instrument were you?
Drummer.
I was the guitar with the broken strings. I think one of the stories here, though, is obviously Chelsea are not going to be in the title race. Is Man City and its appetite, isn't it? It's the one thing we've all questioned.
Right.
5 in a row, appetite, energy, desire, fitness.
Yeah.
Have they got it again to go and do it? And I think we saw bits and pieces. I mean, Doku, Cucurella never gave Doku a kick, and then they switched, and Savinho take him to the cleaners until he got injured. Just gave him something different until he got injured, and they're not going to go away. The big question is, when Rodri comes back, and he does, has he got the legs this year after a blistering 11 and a half months, it seems, of playing almost every week? And even he said at the end of the season, or before the end of the season, remembered Rodri, he said, I'm tired.
Yeah.
And then he goes to the Euros, he's brilliant, he hardly has any rest, he's got a knock. How much rest will Guardiola give him? Maybe he'll give him 4 weeks, maybe he'll leave him on the bench because he's got enough. But if these players don't get a rest, that's going to be a problem. Although, again, you talk about a player coming in, putting his hand up and saying, I'll stand up, I'll take the ball under pressure, I'll lead this team. It wasn't so much Kevin De Bruyne, it was Mateo Kovacic.
Yes.
Who never hides.
No.
Never hides.
Yeah.
Gets on it, makes a mistake, he's still there showing for the ball. Makes another mistake, he's still showing. Never hides. Never hides. Good quality. He's been around. He's played at Real Madrid, for God's sake. He's played in World Cup finals. This guy's quality. So they have got a player that can not necessarily do everything Rodri does, but can come in and be very tidy. And as long as they have players like that, that can come in and give others a rest because they're going to need a rest, then maybe they have got the energy to go for another full year. But I think it is going to be difficult for them, to be quite honest with you. And there are still those gaps that appear in this City defence that you can exploit. We saw Man United almost do it in the Community Shield, and I think if we saw a better Chelsea side, they could have exploited those gaps, but they didn't have enough guile in the final third.
It's interesting, Craig brings up Kovacic. Frank, obviously, on the field today after being sold from Chelsea to Manchester City and was arguably the best player today on the pitch.
Yeah, a good lesson to the board. Don't get rid of a fantastic player. That's a very good lesson. And that was a big surprise. And you could have understood, from Kovacic to willing to go to Manchester City, no problem. It's only fair. But the club didn't even try to make sure that he could stay. And you have so many other players who've done so well after leaving Chelsea, being brilliant for the next club. And that's sad. You know what? Good thing that we found the Cucurella we found during the Euro. That was very nice to see him at the same level. And Doku changed side because he couldn't deal with him. That was a very good news because we know that Chilwell has been asked to find another club if he wants it some minutes. So it's good to see Cucurella at that level. But again, in the middle of the park, when you don't have Kovacic, you let Kante go, what do you expect? What do you expect? Yeah, you can spend 100 million for players who are not prepared to be at the same level of those players we just mentioned. And it's normal that they have that kind of performances. It's not enough.
What's interesting as well, obviously, and we've talked about it a lot, you've got 43 players. Some players are going to be left out of the team. One player in particular hit the headlines for being left out, and that was Raheem Sterling. Why this turned into a bigger story than maybe it had to be was that his PA released this statement saying Raheem Sterling is contracted to Chelsea Football Club for the next 3 years. He returned to England 2 weeks early to conduct individual training and has had a positive pre-season under the new coach, who has developed a good working relationship with. He is committed as ever to delivering at the highest level for Chelsea and the fans, who he holds in high regard. And given his inclusion in official club pre-match material this week, our expectations was that Raheem would be involved in this weekend's fixture in some capacity. As a camp, I'm not sure how many people are in this camp, we have always had positive dialogue with and assurance from Chelsea in relation to Raheem's future at the club. So we look forward to gaining clarity on the situation. Until then, we will continue to support Raheem's desire to start the new season positively. Now, this was released before kickoff, when it was announced that Raheem Sterling wasn't in the squad. What do you make of it?
Well, first of all, Raheem Sterling not being in the squad for me is not really a big deal. It's not like, Erling Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne were left out at Man City. It's not like Declan Rice was banned from the training ground at Arsenal. It's not like the Liverpool coach left for Ipswich and Mo Salah was in the car park and was left behind. So it's not a huge playing thing, but it's blown up a little bit or a lot because of this statement. This tells me what the game's all about now. You go to the manager the next morning and you kick the door off the hinges if that's what you want to do.
Yep.
But you go in there and you're robust and you say, what the hell's going on? You're not part of my plan, son. That's crystal clear. I don't need people releasing stuff because I'm not in the matchday squad or I'm biffed. I'm out. Right? I don't need that. And a manager doesn't need it either. Go and see him the next day and say, transfer window is however many days away. Am I in your plans or am I not? Now, I think clearly we have the answer.
Yes.
Right, so Enzo Maresca can come out and fudge it all he wants. We have the answer. But all this statement nonsense, quite frankly, is just what it is. It's just balderdash. But that being said, it makes no difference really, I think. Raheem Sterling's career is going that way. So it's a story within a story. But Chelsea want to move forward, and you don't need to put it one way. When you're left out, that sends a clear signal. Mm-hmm. It's match day one, It's Man City, it's at home, you have a new manager who wants to make a good impression. He plays and has on the bench the players that he thinks is going to make him look the best. If that's not a signal of intent, I don't know what is.
Frank, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was surprised by that statement, and I tried to read between the lines, and in fact, I realized that there was nothing to read between the lines except the lines. And the lines, when you read the lines, is 3 years left, 3 years contract left. How many years did he sign for Chelsea? How long he's been at Chelsea? 2, 3 years already?
Yep.
Did he sign a new contract? I mean, its performances have been so average, I would say, and I want to be nice, that I understand that he signed a new contract. And if he signed a 5 years or 6 years contract, that's crazy. I always said when Pep Guardiola doesn't want you anymore, there is a question mark. And if you are another club and you want to buy Sterling because you think you can compete against Manchester City hiring Sterling, you're wrong. You're wrong. If you are a middle table team, and that's okay because Sterling is a good player. He's not maybe the player he was before at Liverpool and after Manchester City. But there is a real question mark. Why do you sign a 5 years, 6 years contract a player who is on his way down? That's my concern. And that's what it is with Raheem Sterling. And there is nothing to read between the lines. Unfortunately, his best days are behind him. And that's what it is in football. And unless he goes to another club and maybe has other projects, but at Chelsea, it's over. The fans, they mostly don't really like him. He hasn't been good for Chelsea. It's been a wrong performance, and he's been lasting too long, and he has to go for me.
He had his moments last year, didn't he?
Of course.
He had his moments last year, and at times. It's a
Yeah,
good job.
3 games, yeah.
It's a good job we never got statements from all the others left out the matchday squad. We'd still be here next week, wouldn't we?
We're going through all the pages.
But look, at the end of the day, managers come in and make decisions, and clearly the club feel and the manager feels that he's surplus to requirements. They'll be looking to get people off the wages. Don't forget, I was surprised today in the commentary, Romelu Lukaku's still in the books. Amongst others, you've got Ben Chilwell there, who apparently the manager basically said is surplus to requirements. So there are many, many, many that Chelsea will be trying to get off the books, and many of them have come in during this Todd Bowley era, and all of a sudden they have all these players, they have to meet all these requirements from the Premier League, and something has to give. And it looks like it's going to be Raheem Sterling. But tell you what, if I had a 3-year contract, 3 years left, and I was in that scenario as a player, it's not a bad place to be. Yeah, you're a bit frustrated from a playing perspective, but, he's sitting on a nice contract, so he's going to be ultimately the winner in this in the end.
Craig, you cannot say that. I mean, there are people watching us, and hopefully young people watching us. I mean, I understand what you mean because of the money, because of the contract, but we have to send a message that's what the most important thing in football, and it's not money. If they have enough money, those players, to enjoy, and how they enjoy their lives is playing football. Say you have 3 years contract, you're on the bench at Chelsea Football Club, and you're happy with it? No, I'm sorry. When I was at Chelsea, and I wasn't earning the money that I earned, I felt that I couldn't play anymore because Ranieri trusted more John Terry to do so. So I decided, okay, what do I want? And I was already 32, 33. I could have stayed on the bench. Yeah, I get my money. I love football. So I went for Marseille, 4 times less wage to play football because it's what I wanted. And I'm sorry, Raheem Sterling is still young. He has to go to another club to enjoy because he's going to regret that. Yeah, money is important in life, but it doesn't make all, and having regrets at the end of the career, so I play only 200 games in my career. Yeah, I'm a millionaire. I'm very happy. It's not what it is. You have to achieve something.
But if they want him out, he's holding the cards.
That's it.
Really, because he's got that. What my point is, he's got this deal, and it's their prerogative to get him out, and that's why I'm surprised that he's bleating about it a little bit, because it's crystal clear what has happened here, that he's going to be surplus to requirements. But my point is that if you're going to try and force somebody out of a club, which clearly they're going to try and do with someone, you remember Barcelona tried to do it with Frankie de Jong a couple of years ago, and Frankie de Jong went, sod you. I'm not the makeshift in this, the make weight and all this financial skullduggery, right? I'm not, and I'm not having it. And so Raheem Sterling's in a position where the manager doesn't look as if he wants him, the club don't look as if they want him, but he's got this contract. So he can roll the ball back into their court and say, over to you. Yeah, it's frustrating, I understand that, but it's back in your court, You want me to go, you make it happen.
One more thing from what we saw today, and it's just incredible when you look at his numbers. Erling Haaland, of course, scoring once again. That's 100 games, got 91 goals, 15 assists. By the way, during that time, he's got 91 goals. The second closest to him is Mohamed Salah, with 56 goals in the same time span. And today, Frank, was one where he just seemed to want it more.
Yeah, that's crazy. And with all the smiles on his face, I mean, that was absolutely fantastic. And the goal he scored was simply amazing because the first control is good. You would have thought that his Erling Haaland is not technical, so he's going to shoot straight away. No, he pushed the ball a little bit, chipped the ball over the goalkeeper and scored a beautiful goal. And he always scored in the first day to sign, to make sure that people will remember him. The guy is only exceptional. I would be frustrated to play his role because he doesn't touch the ball enough for me. He's not involved enough, but that's mostly because of the way City plays. And he has to be patient and ready to receive from De Bruyne, from Bernardo Silva, or other Grealish, maybe, or Rodri when he plays a perfect ball for an assist. It's a frustrating game, but it's a rewarding game because he scored goals and goals and goals. And we planned that when he moved from Dortmund to City, that he would be exceptional, and he is. He's still very young. We don't have the chance to see him because he doesn't play for a big country, but what a player. What a player.
That's why, quite often, if you look closely enough, you can see steam coming out of Jan Agafiotov's ears. When we have a discussion, when you see that graphic and those numbers, and we have a discussion about, hardly saw Erling Haaland today. God, he wasn't involved in the game, and that has been quite regular. And then you look at the numbers and you go, hold on a minute.
Yeah, it's quite something, isn't it?
It's hard to argue. Now, in a perfect world, would his all-round game be sharper and more polished? I think so. But the strikers' union out there and the statisticians will say, look at that.
Yep.
And you know, argue against that. And at the end of the day, that's always what it's going to be about. But it's scoring in the big games, isn't it?
Well, that's it. People
last
point
year,
at finals.
You know, the Real Madrid game and other games. You know, it's all, the stats are great, but it's really when you get to these big moments, which he has done in his career. He absolutely has. But there was moments last year where it didn't happen for him. His numbers are great, but it didn't happen for him in some of the bigger games. And I think that's where he can polish those rough edges a little bit.
Frank, one last thing. Apparently you wanted to talk about a particular play with Enzo today.
Yeah, that was funny. That was really funny. I mean, how he can complain about his ankle when he's been tackled by Diaz's hand, sorry. You're going to see that it's very, very funny. Look at that. And he's asking for a penalty. He's at the left hand of Diaz, and now he touches he makes a foul. First, that's him who makes a foul. Then Diaz touches him with his hand, and now he's on the floor. I mean, come on, Enzo. My man, you know, you're the captain of Chelsea. I mean, you can pretend at some point because we know how football is, but don't make it too much because that's not a very good example.
I've got a feeling where Frank's target's going to be this year.
Well, I know, it's interesting, isn't it?
Early season runner and rider is Enzo Fernandez.
No,
he's moved from Cucurella. Remember Cucurella last year?
No. Yeah, I don't want Argentine people thinking that I'm bitter because I'm French against Argentina. That's not what it is. You know, I have many. I have many Mario Kemp. No, but for example, Mario Kempes is one of my idols. I love Messi and I love so many players. But really, Enzo Fernandez has to show to Chelsea his leadership. They put in the armband because Reece James is not there. But today, that was everything but leadership. And he has to be careful on what he does. He's an example for the youth, and don't do that. Don't stay on the floor because you've been tackled by the hand.
Think about the children, Frank. That's exactly what we're looking at here.
Yeah, as you said earlier about the money.
Yes, indeed. It's all about examples.
Yeah, you see?
Where are we going now?